Strategic Hotbox with Dr. Brandi Luv Stankovic. Discussing leadership, business, and how to take control of your life and achieve greatness. From the streets of Las Vegas, energized, informed, and never diluted. It's time to kick some ass.
Hey, it's your girl, Dr. Brandi Stankovic, and welcome back to the Strategic Hotbox. Today, we are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, and that is around leadership, diversity, bringing in the best from people, pulling out the best from people, and talking about the right kind of being uncomfortable. For anyone that's new to the Hotbox here, we learn, we love, and we kick ass. So we'll give you some tips and tools and tricks and things from the field, and then we'll talk about the importance of relationships and human beings and loving one another. And then we'll leave you with some kick-ass takeaways, things that you can start implementing and executing on today. In season 5 here of the Hotbox, so we've been switching it up a little bit, and I like to say, new and improved. So several of our new episodes are on the road, and some are virtual like we are today. Some are going to be in studio, and some are coming from you live from different parts of the world. So hang in there, this is going to be a lot of fun. But as I mentioned, today's topic is around diversity, equity, inclusion, generational leadership, and understanding different human beings. And with that, I wanted to address really quickly, I just started teaching again this semester at the College of Southern Nevada. I love it, and I have different groups of different students at different levels of their life. That's the best part about teaching at a community college is not just 18-year-olds, it's people returning to school and that have full-time jobs, and they're really just earthy human beings. And it's been a lovely kind of reintegration of being in that environment. And in the process of that, I was explaining to the students around DEI, because it's become such a term that businesses are throwing around and maybe not everyone is understanding. And people are developing bias or developing kind of within their own echo chamber, developing perspectives that maybe aren't as accurate as they could be along the path as well. So when it comes to diversity, and for anybody that's listening here, all of you know that this is a topic we love to talk about, so I'm sure you've heard previous episodes on it, but just as a really quick review, in diversity is, I think the biggest thing that people need to remember is we are different, right? And for those people that like to say things like, I don't see color, or I don't understand, differences don't matter to me. Well, they should. And we are different, and that's what makes us beautiful. And I think that diversity is providing and creating and understanding and utilizing the value that our differences bring and what we can do and how that supports the organization. When it comes to equity, I think equity is an important term too, because it's not equality. And there's so many battles around social media and things that are happening around this. No one in our conversations with businesses that I work with are talking equality, we're talking equity. And there's a big difference. To me, I was thinking about, we're in the springtime here, and some people that are listening probably just recently celebrated Easter. And I was thinking about equity in terms of Easter. And I'm not going to talk down the religious path, but more around some of the traditions that some families may have, like an Easter egg hunt, right? And so when I line my boys up and their cousins up all in a line to go out and find the Easter eggs that are brightly colored eggs around the backyard, we always let the 2-year-old or the youngest cousin out first. And we always let them out, and they get a couple minutes to go find some eggs. And all of us listening and thinking, of course you do that. It's the right thing to do. And we do that because it creates a bit of equity, and it provides where everyone has equal access to the same result. And that's what's so important about equity. It's a little bit different, right? You let the 2-year-old out, let him get a couple eggs, because otherwise the big kids will run that child over. Right? The same is true in life. There are individuals that are coming into situations that could and would be run over. Maybe it's by privilege, maybe it's by background, socioeconomic status, maybe it's by color of their skin. All of these different things play a role, and equity creates somewhat of a balance to get everybody to the end result we want to be. And then inclusion, of course, is the most important thing from my perspective, because it is around making people feel safe, included, a part of it, creating an environment that allows for that to flourish. Well, the good news is we have a subject matter expert with us here today. Dr. James Pogue is the president and CEO of JP Enterprises. he works and talks to organizations and people around diversity, multi-generational leadership. Ooh, that's a fun topic that we haven't addressed. It's going to be really fun to talk about. And the transformative power of embracing being a little uncomfortable and what we do from that. So please join me in welcoming Dr. James Pogue. Hello there.
Hey.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. You got a ton of energy. I tend to be like a bit more introspective, like and I've got one person on our team, you know who she is, and she's a bundle of energy. So as soon as she came on, she's like boom, 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 and you're one of those people. So this is gonna be fun. Let's go.
All right. Well, I don't know. From my end of the computer, it feels like your energy is matching mine. So kudos to you. Thank you for being here. Now you have a breadth of experience in working with organizations. What inspires you and what inspired you to be where you are today?
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate that I have had people that have looked out for me, that have done for me when I didn't ask, perhaps when I didn't deserve, perhaps when I didn't earn. And I feel the need to give back. And I've always been able to leverage what's going on inside my head in an effort to do that. I wanted to be a nerd when I was a kid. I wanted to be a nerd when I was in high school, and I was one in college too. And I get to use my brain to help people. And so I want to do that. I want to help people connect more deeply and use that ability to connect more deeply to solve complex problems for all of us. I believe that we have the obligation, at least in our organization, to try to change leaders from the inside out for the better, so they can impact the world in a more significant way. And we do that by keeping them uncomfortable. None of us learned anything by being comfortable. Somebody had to stir you up a little bit. To your point around the egg hunt, there might have been a kid who's like, you know what, I want more eggs. So you're gonna have to run a little faster. You're gonna have to push a little harder. And that's how life can often operate. You want more, you have to put yourself in a slightly uncomfortable situation and push and push and push. And so I recognize that may not be easy for people. And sometimes they need a guide. Sometimes they need help. Sometimes they need a plan. And that's what we help them do.
I love that. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to some of these bigger leadership and difficult topics, people need a guide because they aren't necessarily seeing an outside perspective or seeing beyond whatever their scope is. And no kind of, I don't ever want to discourage people if they live in their bubble, because so do I, so does the world, right? And algorithms and AI and things don't help with that. But it's important to have a guide, somebody like you, to provide the other side and to see what else is happening or challenge the status quo.
Well, what you said at the beginning was really important. These three letters, D, E, and I, once placed in a row like that, and then over time have developed into a word, if you will. And in today's marketplace, call it the political marketplace, call it the religious marketplace, call it the educational marketplace. It has there's a connotation that goes with those three letters in a row now that didn't exist 10 years ago. So then how do I, as a business leader, make sense out of that? How am I supposed to make decisions based upon the connotation of three letters that didn't exist before? That's what we help you do. Make sense out of something that perhaps is new, is odd, is strange, and then create policy and practice and actions and behaviors for the positive impact. I don't expect people to agree with me. I don't expect to agree with you. And in fact, I like it when we don't. I try to surround myself with smart people that I disagree with sometimes. And so I think this DEI, this cancellation, this wokeness, that whole set of behaviors, that whole mindset can derail smart people from solving complex problems. So we can put that over here, and let's look at the problem. And let's look at the challenges that exist within the problem. And let me have an interesting conversation with you about what some solutions might be.
And I love that a couple of things that you said. One, we have a good friend of the podcast, Toby Kennedy, that says that if you are successful at bullshitting, then you're in the wrong room. Then if you're smarter than everybody in there, you're in the wrong room. And that is an important piece, is to surround ourselves with those kind of individuals. But the second thing you said is that DEI is somewhat becoming a catchphrase that people are throwing out there, that it ends up, it diminishes the return on progress.
Agreed. It's a way to start a fight. And if you want to fight, similarly, maybe if you want to BS, that's not a room I want to be in. I'll go find another room to be in. You don't have to leave. I'm allowed to leave. So that's fine too. But if you want to solve problems, If you want your organization to be more impactful, positively impactful, and you want to push in that direction and you're not quite sure how, well, then you might want or need a little bit of help. So yeah, I think that it's an effort to create positive impact over time through doing the kinds of things that change the guts of the human or the guts of the team or the guts of the organization. And it's very rare that it's just add water and poof, it works. More often than not, it's change over time. Sometimes too slow for some of us, and that's okay. Impatience is fine. But to recognize that it takes a long time to take an ocean liner that's been going north by northwest to make it happen go west by southwest, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can take a little while. So a little patience, a little perseverance, that helps us all move forward and create the positive impact we want to see in the world.
I love how you frame it where it starts with the guts. It starts on the inside. So I've defined diversity there at the beginning with my words. Would you add to that, or how would you define diversity when it comes to organizations today?
What I'll share is that the definition I like to use is everything about you or me that makes us similar or different. All of those things count as diversity, right? Mm-hmm. Every day of the week, I've got a hair color, a height, I've got an age, I've got a place that I'm from. All of that counts as diversity. But I will say there are some components of diversity that carry more weight or have more impact than others. In my business, we call that the diversity, inclusion, and belonging big nine. These 9 areas of difference that carry more weight than others. So for example, again, every day of the week, my favorite color is emerald green. Love it to death, right? But my age is more impactful to how the world sees me and how I see the world than my favorite color, right? So whether it's socioeconomics, as you see on the screen, religion, age, gender, these have more impact than the other components of me, right? My height, I like it, works for me. And it helps, it suggests how people, they might think of me or what I might see or what I'm able to reach. But what's more important, my height or my faith? Mm-hmm. What has more impact to the world and how I see the world? Over and over again, these 9 have been the areas where the most impact has been.
Well, and society and social norms has created that, right? So you ask, what's more important, my faith or my height? To some individuals, there might not be a difference, or there might not be one that's more important. But societally speaking, like culturally speaking, there are norms that we have developed that add to this value or create this value or importance around these different 9. And I love it framed that way. I haven't heard anybody frame it like that. So thank you for sharing that methodology with us. And it's true. We end up, and depending on the organization, the geographic region that you're from, those probably shift and flow in what those priorities are, huh?
100%. Geography, we used to have 8, and geography became the 9th one. And it was because with some of our international clients, there was one in particular where the company has footprints all over the world, primarily US, Europe, Asia Pacific. And there was a lady that I met there. She happened to be a Muslim woman, and she is a mother. She's mid-40s, and I met her, and she was pregnant with her 2nd child. And she says, hey, I want to talk to you about what's happening in our organization. And she is a smart cookie. She is really, really bright and at the top of her game and at the top of her field, either within her organization or within her industry. So I'm believing that she's going to talk to me about how gender has been impactful, how being a mother has been impactful, how living outside of her home country, she's from the Middle East, but she's living in London, how that has been impactful. No. What she says to me is, Doc, look, where I'm from matters. When I open my mouth, it is characterized by the fact that I am not from the US. Mm-hmm. And my peers who are from the US, their comments are received differently. Mm-hmm. And I said, so more than your gender, more than this, more than that, I start going to the big 9, et cetera. Yes, every day, all day. And so I started listening to the international clients differently. And then I went back to my own sort of lab. And I said, does it matter if just in the continental US, in my little microcosm? Answer, yes. It matters if somebody's from the North or from the South. It matters if somebody's from the East or from the West. You know, I have been guilty of when I'm trying to tease someone who is, and I think that what they said was not the most intellectually astute comment, I might flex into a Southern accent. I get that from.
I was just gonna say, where are you from? What part of the country are you from? Because I'm a, just so I can judge you. This really works.
I was born in the Midwest. I'm a Colorado guy. And so I have a middle of the country accent, if you will. My people are from the South, from the deep South. And then I went to school in the deep South and in Arizona, in the Southwest, and then up in the Boston area. So I got the opportunity to move around, also connected with my military experience, and then with my parents' military experience. So recognizing that where you are from, just in the U.S., doesn't matter a lot. Doesn't matter more than my favorite color. Doesn't matter as much as age. Doesn't matter as much as socioeconomics. Oh, it can. It absolutely can. And so, and one that would not exist, I'd say 15 years ago, would be politics. Politics would not be on the list 10, 15 years ago. But in today's marketplace, absolutely. You cannot not count politics as an important component of who people are and what they are.
That's so true. And especially in the year that we're in right now, coming up with an election and things like that, like it definitely can shift perspective on individuals depending on where they align or how they express their political views and things like that. You were talking about the international side. I work a lot with speakers and helping them be the best communicators in public speaking. And I always talk about the fact that, if English is a second or third or fourth language, first of all, you're an amazing human being for someone that can speak different languages. But the second piece of that is articulation, enunciation. Things are so critical because our ears even just passively listen to our native languages, and you can't necessarily passively listen to other languages, and that will impact even how we're heard, understood. I speak Spanish, and I often wonder what my personality is in Spanish, because in English I'm very direct, straightforward, energetic, but I don't think I have that same confidence when I'm speaking Spanish. So I probably have a completely different personality. And so just the value and beauty of that piece of diversity, I hadn't thought about it the way that you were talking about, is pretty incredible.
I think you're exactly right. And I'm in the process of learning Spanish. I'm like 2 years in. So 0 to 10, I give myself a strong 2.75 in my skill sets. But I would also say that my reading, my writing are way stronger than my speaking and my listening. And my listening is by far the weakest. And to your point, I hadn't thought about it this way, but I'm listening using sort of the poetry that I've been taught in English, and it doesn't it doesn't fit, And so, and then then my personality, I have no idea how that's going to
Yeah, that's true. So figuring that out as you go. Now, we both agree that this is a critical topic, right? And yet we're hearing in the news that there's lots of big organizations that are pulling back funding and removing departments and positions that they once had focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. What do you think about that? What do we do? Do we care?
Well, I have two strong opinions on that. And the second one is a bit more controversial, so I'll save it to last. The first is that what is happening in these organizations is, I think, the swing of the pendulum. And so it's to be expected. And especially in today's, again, political environment, that this is going to occur, and that we have to be smart and capable and driven in terms of the positive impact that this work can make. How do we find the best talent wherever it might be? Right? I can say that our client base is US wide. It's across the world. There is not one area of blue or red states that wants us more. I would say that, in fact, it is probable that the states that have the least "quote unquote" friendly DEI policies, practices, laws are where we have the most business, because they're trying to figure out and solve for the problem that is coming around the corner. So that's my first thought about it, that it's to be expected, and you've got to be bright and capable and driven about the problem, about the issue of what is the problem you're trying to solve. Because if we yell and scream about they took it away, they took it away, they took it away, they took it away, that energy could have been used on, how do I solve the problem? How do I solve the problem? How do I solve the problem?
Yeah.
The second piece I would say is I have some challenge and poke with people that do this "quote unquote" inclusion work. There is no confusion in my mind that this was predictable. That 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was predictable. The writing was on the wall. And so why weren't we better prepared? Why didn't we dig these ideas, concepts, and principles into the guts of the organization, into the guts of the leadership development programs in such a way that to pull them out would uproot the organization?
Mhm.
Right? And some organizations did do that, and kudos to them. Others, this DEI thing has always been just this add-on. And so it's easy to remove something that's an add-on. It's hard to remove something that's in the DNA.
You're
And
right.
so the people across the table from us, from you, from we, are just as smart as you. They're just as capable as you. They're just as driven as you. They will stay up all night too to get what they believe to be right done. And yes, good for them.
Mhm.
So you better work hard. And we have to think smarter and deeper, more comprehensively about any difference that we want to have. Otherwise, we're just the one checking boxes.
Right. Yeah.
And so the work that is required of today's inclusion professional that level of professionalism has to be just as high as our finance friends, as our operations friends, as our marketing friends, as our tech friends. And for those of us that came over to the inclusion work, because you used to be in accounting, you used to be in marketing, and you were the leader of the women's ERG, and they said, "Hey, don't you want to be our inaugural inclusion director?" You said yes. Well, you may not have the requisite experience today to be hyper successful tomorrow. Right? So get in the lab and get to work. Get yourself a coach, get yourself a mentor, figure out what you don't know, and then fill your bucket with what you need to know. And then off to the races.
I love it. And earlier you referenced age as one of the big nine and talking about how it can be impactful. What are some ways that people can navigate the different generations?
Well, I think that there's a strategy that I try to use across the board, which is to say, if you can get better at navigating any of the areas of difference, that skill set is transferable, right? And so the interesting thing about generations, it is one of the areas of difference on the big nine where it's okay to talk terribly about a whole group of people and nobody's going to say you're a bad person, right? You can say, well, millennials, they're these kind of spoiled, want to get promoted tomorrow type of folks. Or we can say with the baby boomers, oh my goodness, she's a boomer, right? And that has become a negative thing to say about people. We can say about these Gen Zs, oh, they're soft, they're all snowflakes. When did it become okay to talk negatively about a huge swath of people? And then people will chuckle and they'll laugh. And, when did that become okay? If we said that about women, that would be a problem. Well, and they're spoiled and they're stubborn and all of this. If we said this about Latinos, they're old and they don't like to change their ways. People would look at us and say, what do you think that you're doing, right? People would get terminated on the spot. So I think that what the strategy that I initially offer is that we look at these frames of diversity in a space of sort of equity. All right. Or you wouldn't do that in another framework. Why are you doing it here?
Right.
And then hold people accountable for what it is that you said. I'm the one that said that these Gen Zers are spoiled and they're snowflakes. Wait a second, James. Double click on your language. What did you really mean by that? And how can we frame that in terms of policy or practice or behaviors? Right? Let's not stamp somebody one way because of a set of actions. Let's see what those actions and behaviors are and then edit as we need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And it's not the thing about the generations also is it's cyclical. So when I first came into consulting work, that was the big buzz. And it was like in early 2000s, right? And so it was when we called millennials Gen Y. And there was all this 5 generations in the workplace. We got the veterans and the baby boomers, et cetera, et cetera. And then here we are 25 years later, and it's the exact same thing, just one generation step down, and the same terminology, the same kind of paths that we take in that. Now, mind you, there's affinity, right? Just like any affinity group or ERG or those different things that you've addressed. And so I always try to not disrespect the affinity that comes from being around people that are like us, with the fact that it's important to be around a diverse group of individuals as well.
Yes, I mean, you're right. To drawing that distinction is important. Words matter. And there are sometimes when we use these malapropisms and we try to shoehorn a word in to mean something that's not exactly what it means. But so I think that you are hitting the nail right there on the head, that it's okay for me to feel connected to my Gen X friends. Right? We see the world the same way. We grew up with a similar kind of food and similar kind of memories. There's nothing wrong with that. But what comes with that is a way of thinking that some people might call biased. And so then we can easily see, I hope, and teach and learn that what has impacted us over time frames how we see the world. It can open us up and it can close us off. And that's fine. It's why I hope to surround myself, or we should surround ourselves with people that might be different from us, if that's what you're into. Because here's the other piece. You deserve the opportunity to surround yourself with whomever you like. You want to be around people just like you go for it. Do your thing, right? But it's my job as your consultant, as your friend, as your colleague, as your coach, whatever it might be, to say, that's going to limit you. It's going to limit you to this. And maybe that's exactly what you want. You want to live in this environment with these kinds of people in this zip code, right? That's great. That's fine. It doesn't mean that those people are terrible. It means you made a decision to be over here. And these things can exist at the same time. I can be different than you, and you're not a terrible person, and I'm not better than you. I just want to be with the people who are, quote unquote, like me.
And as long as it's intentional, it's I say to people, if they want to be angry, if you want to be whatever those things, as long as you know you're doing it, you're not putting other people in a place of discomfort without being aware, having that awareness. So I feel like I could talk to you like all day, but what I want to ask, a quick question, we're going to head out to a shout out, and then we're going to come back and we're going to leave everybody with some takeaway tools. If you could, you would blank every day.
Dance.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorite answers so far. And the world would be a better place if?
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. People cried more often.
I'm not sure my family.
Whatever the reason that you're crying. Whatever it is, you can be a Golden Globe tearjerker person, but I would say on probably once a day, I get a tear thing that I have at least once. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely do, but I try not to talk about that too much, Dr. Pogue. But I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's head out to our shout out.
Hola, mi nombre es Luis. Estamos aquí en Cabo San Lucas disfrutando del sol y la playa. Estoy con Brandi y están escuchando Hotbox.
Thank you to my friends in Cabo San Lucas for sending the shout out. Now, Dr. Pogue, what do you think? If we could leave everyone with some action items to create that healthy discomfort, to grow, what would be the takeaway or advice for our listeners, our kick-ass takeaway?
Well, one, I think that there's that idea of you want these deep connections with people. You need to turn down some of the speed bumps that exist. And some of those speed bumps, that was DIBS Big Nine that we talked about. And part of the way that we can turn them down is by learning more about them. So I might suggest that people do the uncomfortable work of tapping someone on the shoulder and saying, how can I lead you? How can I team with you? How can I spouse with you? How can I parent you better? What about you that's different from me that I don't understand well? Can you explain to me so that I can be better for you, that I can be better in service for you? I believe strongly that we should be in service of the people that are in front of us, that we should continually earn the right to be in service of the people that we are working with. So ask someone how you can be better in service of them.
I love it. Asking questions, being listeners, understanding, being curious, all of that is so, so powerful. I appreciate that from you. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
Sure, you can go to our website, jamespogue.com, and on there, there's a little click up screen, and you can hit us up there, or you can go info@jamespogue.com, and that'll take you to where you want to go. Or I'm on the LinkedIn, as my mother says, or the Gram, as one of my nieces and nephews like to call it. So yeah, easy to find. Dr. James Pogue, find me there, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
I love it, and I hope all of our listeners do just that. It really cracked me up with the LinkedIn, like your mom, the Gram, like your. That's very clever. So similarly, you can find the Strategic Hotbox on all of your favorite platforms: Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and even a little TikTok these days, and Roku. We've got our own Roku app, so you can download if you're ever sitting on the couch and needing some leadership inspiration. Check us out. And if you'd like to hear a certain topic covered on the Hotbox, please email us at podcast@strategichotbox.com, podcast@strategichotbox.com, and we will make that happen for you. Thank you again to Dr. James Pogue for being here and our subject matter expert today. Appreciate all that you're doing. And until I see all of you again, get out there and kick some ass.